Welcome to Deep Sleep Stories. My name is Matt. I know this podcast is quite new, but some of you have been following along for a while now. As you may have noticed, the narrator has changed a couple of times already in just a few months. The truth is, the podcast has been growing extremely slow, and basically nobody has left us any reviews so far. I'm here as the new voice of the podcast and would love to stick around, but I need your support to do so. Please, if you enjoy our content, it would mean so much to us if you could just leave us a review on whichever podcast platform you use. Now, take a deep breath and let's begin tonight's story.
Welcome to Deep Sleep Stories. Take a moment now to settle into the gentle warmth of your bed or favorite place of rest. Feel your spine sink into supportive cushions and soften your shoulders until a calm heaviness spreads through you. Allow your eyes to become heavy and half-lidded so the world around you grows a little bit dimmer, a little bit gentler. In this cozy space, you can release the tensions of the day and welcome a sense of serenity that drifts in like the hush of falling snow. Tonight, you'll journey to a peaceful cottage blanketed in winter's quiet snowfall, where a velvety mug of midnight hot chocolate awaits, promising restful warmth. So breathe in softly, then breathe out, letting your exhalation carry away all lingering worries. Gently remind yourself that this is a time for deep rest and quiet comfort, for soft reflection and tender calm. Notice the subtle tingling in your hands and feet as you relax and observe the rhythm of your breath in a slow and forgiving tempo. Feel each inhale expand your lungs, and each exhale release any heaviness in your body. Let go of thoughts about tomorrow or the day that's passed. Here and now, the landscape of peaceful dreams is on the horizon. In this inward journey, you become weightless and free, ready to listen with a calm, open heart. You'll soon discover the hush of a wintry night, the muffled sounds of snow, and the glow of a warm cottage light guiding you home. Now allow your mind to rest as the story begins, drifting into an enchanted place where the air is crisp and clear, and the comfort of hot chocolate and a crackling fire is all you need for gentle rest. Outside, the snow lay thick and undisturbed, softening the land with its pristine blanket. Even the tall evergreens bowed under the weight of winter's graceful gift. A single cottage stood upon a gently sloping hill, its stone walls made pale by moonlight, its shutters drawn against the chill. Through the windows, a warm amber glow flickered and danced, casting welcoming shadows onto the heavy drifts. Inside, a quiet figure moved slowly from the main room to the small kitchen alcove, arranging a few simple ingredients on a worn wooden counter. Snow whispered across the windows, and a gentle wind hummed around the eaves, but the cottage walls held firm against the cold. The occupant of this cottage was a gentle soul named Eleonora. She had come to this remote dwelling in search of a serene winter retreat. She arrived earlier in the season, just before the heaviest snows blanketed the hillsides. Each morning, she greeted the day by lighting a small lantern near the threshold, welcoming any wandering spirit of warmth and peace. Each night, she found solace in the quiet hush that only deep winter can bring. The hush reminded her of a lullaby, leading her gently toward a calm and reflective state of mind. There, in the heart of these silent nights, Eleonora discovered a kind of tranquility that settled into her very bones. On this particular evening, well past the usual hour for slumber, sleep was elusive. The air felt electric, as though the snow-laden sky held an ancient secret. The moon was nearly full, washing the silent world in blue-white light. Instead of going to bed, Eleanor decided to conjure a small, comforting ritual: midnight hot chocolate. She retrieved a favorite enamel pot from the cupboard and set it on the stovetop, carefully building a low flame beneath it. The small flicker of firelight mixed with the quiet glow of the lanterns, and for a moment, the entire cottage seemed to breathe in a comforting rhythm. She had collected the finest cocoa powder and a hint of crushed spices before arriving at the cottage. Now, under the dim golden light, she spooned the cocoa carefully, letting it drift down into the pot. The gentle hiss of the stove's flame seemed to whisper a soft lullaby of its own, mesmerizing and rhythmic. Eleonora warmed some milk, stirring in the cocoa with a wooden spoon. She added a sprinkle of nutmeg and the tiniest bit of chili for warmth. Steam curled upward, carrying a sweet, velvety aroma that wove its way through every corner of the cottage. Outside, frost lined the windows, forming whimsical shapes like lace filigree. In the main room near the large, gently crackling fireplace, soft rugs were piled atop the wooden floor. Over these rugs, cushions and thick quilts were arranged in a cozy nest, inviting anyone who settled there to remain for hours, lulled by the glow of embers and the hush of snowy nightfall. The old bookshelf behind the armchair held countless volumes, their spines worn from years of handling. Titles about far-off lands, old folklore, and winter legends lined the shelves. Eleanor's footprints from earlier that day remained imprinted upon the rug, leading from the armchair to the hearth and back again. Each step carried with it a small swirl of warmth, leaving an invisible trail of comfort in its wake. Once the hot chocolate was ready, the kitchen filled with a gentle fragrance, reminiscent of warm, toasted spices and melted chocolate stirred by soft winter breezes. Eleonora filled a ceramic mug, one with a delicate pattern of snowflakes painted around its edges. She cupped the mug in her hands, feeling the warmth radiate into her palms. A tiny exhale of contentment escaped her lips. She made her way through the house, stepping with quiet intent, pausing to appreciate the hush that blanketed the countryside. Occasionally, she would peek outside the windows, marveling at how the moonlight sparkled upon the snow, making it shimmer like stardust scattered across the fields. In that moment, everything felt peaceful and contained, as though the entire universe had paused to sip from that same cup of cocoa. The air smelled of pine logs and melting chocolate. Each step Eleonora took was muffled by the thick woven rugs, The floorboards sighed gently but did not creak in protest. She moved slowly, no need to rush, for it was late and time had grown more fluid. The hush of night whispered that all was well. The cottage had many little pockets of coziness, but there was one seat by the fire that beckoned, especially on such a cold night. She arranged the cushions in a welcoming circle, each one thick and soft, to cradle the body with gentle support. She wrapped a woolen blanket around her shoulders, letting it drape over her lap. In her hands, the midnight chocolate beckoned with swirls of steam that rose upward, carrying a fragrant warmth. The winter wind rattled the shutters once, then receded into silence, as though offering the reminder that the storm outside only made the inside more comforting. She took her first sip of the hot chocolate, letting it coat her palate with sweetness and spice. The mix was perfect, a gentle dance of cocoa, a hint of sugar, the faintest glow of chili at the back of the throat. That warmth radiated outward, traveling through her limbs, easing her mind into the kind of tranquil quiet that makes eyelids grow heavy. Eleonora closed her eyes, aware of her own breathing, slow and even, while the fireplace crackled softly, and an occasional pop from the burning wood punctuated the hush. Flickers of light danced across her closed eyelids, painting shifting patterns of gold and orange. The snowfall outside created a subdued hush, muffling all sounds beyond the cottage walls. Sometimes in the distance there was the faint groan of a pine tree bending to the weight of the fresh snow. Other times an owl hooted softly across the valley, its call echoing in the hollows. But here, in the heart of the cottage, each subtle noise blended harmoniously with the lullaby of the quiet night. The cottage felt like a protective cocoon, woven of warm beams, thick stone, and gentle souls. Eleonora let her thoughts wander to sweet memories of home, images of starlit skies, and the comfort of quiet companionship. It was during these late, reflective hours that stories seemed to flow more freely. She found herself remembering tales she'd read in her childhood, stories of brave wanderers seeking hidden cabins in snowy woods, guided only by faint lantern lights in windows, or of travelers who found solace near a flickering hearth in the darkest winter nights. There was something about the hush of snowfall that made each story seem closer to reality, as though the boundary between dream and waking grew soft and blurred around the edges. Her gaze drifted to the shelf of old books. Many nights in this cottage she would choose a volume at random, open its pages, and read until her eyes grew too heavy to continue. But tonight, the delicious comfort of cocoa seemed enough to occupy her senses. She let her eyes rest on the dancing flames instead, listening to the wind swirl. In time, the gentle crackle of the fire became a steady companion, like the purr of a familiar cat curling up beside her. Outside, the moon rose higher, its light more brilliant than before. Through the windows, the snow glowed an otherworldly shade of silver, illuminating the orchard of fir trees, revealing each branch trimmed with delicate icicles. Occasionally, moonlight caught the glass of the window panes, reflecting the interior scene. A figure wrapped in a woolen blanket, holding a ceramic mug, face softened by the quiet comfort of the moment. As midnight deepened, the quiet magic of the hour made the cottage seem suspended in time. In days past, life might have been filled with busyness, with tasks that demanded constant attention. But now, only the gentle swirl of steam, the flicker of fire, and the hush of the night needed to be acknowledged. It was a symphony of stillness, each movement so subtle, so measured, that minutes and hours blended into a soothing lull. Eleonora stood, placing her mug on a small side table. She quietly gathered more logs from the wood basket beside the hearth, adding them to the fire with utmost care. Each log found its place, and soon the new wood joined the radiant glow. Sparks crackled, sending tiny fireworks into the flue. The heat poured out into the room, encouraging the air to drift with drowsy warmth. She returned to her nest of cushions, slipping once more beneath the thick woolen blanket, letting the atmosphere soothe her in the hush of winter's lullaby. With her eyes closed, she allowed her breath to deepen. It was a moment of pure contentment. No heavy thoughts, no pressing concerns, just a sweet surrender to comfort. Light shadows flicked across the walls, and the hush was so absolute that the faintest shifts of her clothing whispered in the silence. Outside, the snow continued to fall, each flake drifting lazily from the sky, adding layer upon layer of soft whiteness to the earth. Occasionally, she would glance at the window, spotting a gust of wind that carried powdery swirls of snow against the glass. The sight sent a gentle shiver through her, a reminder of the stark contrast between the cold outside and the warmth inside. She sipped again from the mug, feeling the soothing thickness of chocolate slip across her tongue and melt away into a gentle heat that warmed her from head to toe. The flavors were like an embrace, mild yet profound, accentuated by the hush that enveloped the cottage. Her thoughts meandered back to a simpler time, reflecting on how the most delightful moments in life can come from small comforts: a soft blanket, a glowing fire, a steaming cup of chocolate on a frosty evening. These quiet rituals formed the heart of winter, turning what could be a harsh, cold season into one of tender reflection and rest. In that sense, the snowbound cottage was not merely a shelter from the cold, but a refuge for the spirit. A place to remember that within stillness can lie profound peace. She found herself recalling a day earlier in the week when she'd ventured outside just before dusk. A gentle swirl of snow had been falling then, and she'd walked around to the back of the cottage where a small wooden bench stood beneath a cluster of pine trees. She had paused, letting snowflakes collect in her hair and on her coat, feeling both the crispness of winter air and the deep comfort of knowing there was a warm fire waiting inside. The memory of that moment with the slow drift of dusk and the pine-scented wind echoed now in the hush of the midnight hour. It brought a sense of completeness, of a season fulfilling its promise of rest and renewal. Time continued its unhurried pace. The large grandfather clock in the corner gave a soft chime, a low note that resonated through the beams and gentle shadows. It did not disrupt the quiet, but rather seemed to acknowledge it, an old friend tipping its hat to the hush. Each strike of the clock reminded her that nights like these were fleeting gifts, best savored slowly, with gratitude and openness to the gentleness they bring. The cottage, with its old stone walls and thick timbers, held memories of many winters. She often wondered who had lived here before, who might have sipped their own midnight cocoa in the flickering light of a humble lantern. Perhaps they too had listened to the wind weaving through the pines and marveled at the stillness of freshly fallen snow. In this way, even though she was alone, she felt a rich companionship with the past, with the stories woven into every corner of this place. Outside, the wind began to settle. The snowfall tapered to a delicate dusting, each flake descending as though in slow motion. The moon's light remained bright and steadfast, revealing a landscape so tranquil it might have been crafted from gentle dreams. The gentle hush spread far beyond the cottage walls, across hilltops and valleys, over frozen ponds and fields. The hush sang a lullaby that calmed every stirring creature, coaxing them into soft, restful slumber. Once more, Eleanor rose from her cushion. She wrapped the thick blanket around her shoulders and moved to the window. There she gazed upon the moonlit scene. In the milky radiance, the world sparkled in pale blues and silvers. She pressed a palm gently against the frosted glass, feeling the coolness on her skin. It was a pleasing contrast to the warmth of the fire still glowing behind her, standing there. She let herself become part of the silence, breathing in a long, slow breath, almost tasting the snow's clean scent in the air. She felt as though time had bowed to the hush, allowing her this moment of complete stillness and peace. The leftover cocoa in her mug had cooled, but the flavor remained soothing. She brought the mug to her lips for a final sip, savoring the sweetness and the hint of spice. A warmth still lingered, a reminder of the comfort that could be found in simple pleasures. She set the mug down and turned once again to the fire. Its embers glowed, quietly weaving patterns of orange and red beneath the settling ash. A log shifted, sending sparks dancing up the chimney, their light momentarily flaring before settling back into the peaceful lull. The hush both inside and out took on a deeper quality, as if the night itself was preparing to slip into dreams. This was when her eyelids grew heavier and her breathing slowed even further, each inhale and exhale forming a gentle wave that carried her into deeper restfulness. She moved closer to the hearth, lying down on the cushions, the woolen blanket tucked around her in a tender embrace. The fire's glow painted a soft shimmer across her face, illuminating a peaceful smile that drifted into the corners of her eyes. With slow deliberation, she let her fingers relax, unfolding them against the plush fabric of the cushion. Her legs, covered by the thick blanket, sank into the softness. The hush in her mind matched the hush in the cottage. Then her thoughts grew more languid, drifting aimlessly like snowflakes, dancing before settling on the earth. Each was a faint whisper of memory or gentle daydream, floating softly in the quiet space of her imagination. As the night wore on, the cottage became even more serene. The clock ticked its steady rhythm. The fire's flames gently rose and fell, and the hush outside grew thick and substantial, as if it were a presence all its own. In that gentle darkness, Eleanor's breathing slipped into a pattern of deep rest. The comforting hush seemed to cradle her, an unspoken lullaby that spoke of safety and warmth. When she finally drifted off, her dreams carried her through winter meadows, lit by moonlight, over hills adorned with evergreen forests, and into hidden groves where crystals of frost gleamed with each breath of wind. It was as if the night itself was revealing secret wonders, showing her where the path of soft reflection and peace could lead. At times she dreamed of footprints in the snow, meandering toward a quiet cabin where a lantern glowed, but she recognized it as her own cottage, calling her home. In those dreams, the scent of chocolate and the fire's warmth lingered as comforting anchors. They were gentle reminders that not all nights were meant for restless searching. Some nights were meant to embrace the hush, to discover a quiet lull within the soul, and to remember that winter had gifts far beyond the cold. And so she slept on, the snow drifting softly beyond the windows, and the fire keeping vigil with its muted light. Dawn would come eventually, slow and gentle, coloring the sky with pale ribbons of blue and pink. The cottage in its deep winter reverie would greet the rising sun with a peaceful hush, the gentle ashes of the night's fire still warm and glowing. But that was a future hour. Here and now, the night reigned, a benevolent keeper of secrets and silent wonders. Under its sway, Eleanor's every breath deepened, each exhalation releasing the last hints of awareness, until she surrendered fully to the balm of restful sleep. Now that you have wandered alongside these moments of gentle warmth, you too can let the hush of that snowbound cottage wrap around you like a soft blanket. If you haven't already, tuck yourself deeper under the covers, ensuring your body is cradled in the coziest position possible. Let the soft darkness of your own surroundings become that tranquil space. Imagine you are nestled by the fireside, a gentle glow dancing across your resting face, while the soft hush of snowfall muffles every last bit of outside noise. Here, safe in your own cocoon of warmth, you can allow your breathing to slow and deepen, each inhale filling you with calm, each exhale a gentle wave of relaxation. Close your eyes and picture the moonlit snow spreading out across a quiet landscape. Let every worry drift away in that hushed scene, carried off by the gentle breeze that swirls snowflakes in a sleepy waltz. Feel a gentle heat blooming in your chest, like the memory of warm cocoa and a tender fire. With each breath, sink further into that soft, restful place where your mind becomes still and serene. Let the gentle hush of winter's night lull you, each moment becoming quieter, softer, and safer. If your thoughts begin to stir, gently guide them back to the warmth of the cottage, the flickering fire, and the soothing scent of hot chocolate. Let that image fill you with a peaceful glow, reminding you that everything is as it should be. The hush envelops you, and you can surrender to its gentle embrace. As your eyelids grow heavier, know that you are guided by a comforting presence, like a soft lullaby carried on the wind. Drift and rest, dear traveler of these sleepy realms. You have felt the hush of a midnight snow, tasted the sweet warmth of chocolate on your tongue, and basked in the tender glow of firelight. Nothing more is needed of you now. It is time to let go and allow sleep to cradle you with its deepest serenity. Let the hush carry you softly into the heart of winter's dream, where you can slumber peacefully until dawn's gentle light. Good night, dear traveler. Sleep well.